Hello everybody, Phil Standard, GunClassUtah.com. Hey, today I've got another great video on a Cedar City man that was arrested for pointing a gun at somebody's vehicle during a road rage. He was subsequently interviewed by police and charged with a third-degree felony. We'll talk about some of the mistakes that he made, some training issues that we can learn from this incident, and some tips how to avoid this. So I found this story on Fox 13 Local News Utah, dated today's date, June 26, 2025. So the suspect that allegedly pointed a gun at somebody during the road rage, his name is Francis Joseph Samhammer, age 62. So Mr. Samhammer and his co-worker it appears they work for a street department, probably maybe with UDOT, the state of Utah, or maybe like for the city of Cedar City. I'm not really sure. But Mr. Samhammer was driving a chip seal truck. I looked that up. It's actually just one of those trucks that carries asphalt around and seals cracks in the road and does repairs. But what happened was, as Mr. Samhammer was driving his chip seal truck, he was cut off by another coworker. And he yelled at the coworker and pointed a gun at the coworker's vehicle. The coworker was afraid of retaliation, but he wanted to report it anonymously to supervisors at work, which is what happened. The supervisors gave Mr. Samhammer a 2-day suspension from work. And then sometime later, the police ended up going out to Mr. Samhammer's house and doing an interview with him in which he agreed to give a statement to police. So there was a little bit of difference in the story from what the witnesses said happened versus what Mr. Samhammer said happened. A little bit of difference. Mr. Samhammer said that he yelled at the other car and pointed the gun at the car. Witnesses actually said that when the coworker walked up to Mr. Samhammer, he pointed the gun directly at him. When detectives asked Mr. Samhammer about the discrepancies in the story, Mr. Samhammer just replied he didn't remember pointing the gun at this particular person. So let's just do an analysis of this, okay? So the police charged Mr. Samhammer with drawing or threatening to use a dangerous weapon in a fight or a quarrel. And you can read up on that law. It's Title 76-11-207 of the Utah Criminal Code. It is normally a Class A misdemeanor, which carries a jail time of not more than 1 year and a fine not exceeding $2,500. However, because this occurred on a roadway in a motor vehicle, the police filed a road rage enhancement against Mr. Samhammer, which makes this Class A misdemeanor a third-degree felony because it is under the new road rage law that Utah passed a couple of years ago. The consequences of the road rage enhancement, if convicted, has driver's license suspensions and revocations involved, stiffer fines than what would normally occur, mandatory impoundment of vehicles involved when there's an arrest. Whether or not the gun was pointed at the coworker's vehicle or was pointed at the coworker directly doesn't really matter as far as a brandishing charge goes, which is a short name for drawing or threatening to use a dangerous weapon in a fight or a quarrel. Certainly pointing the gun at this coworker would have made that charge more serious and could actually result in a aggravated assault charge, which would be doing some sort of unlawful act of pointing a gun at somebody without legal justification that creates a substantial risk of them being injured. For example, if a loaded gun was pointed at somebody during a fight, that could be more serious than a brandishing charge. But that's probably why the police asked him if he pointed the gun directly at the person, because they were exploring the possibility of more serious charges than a brandishing. And when he said that he didn't remember, the police probably just went with the most appropriate charge that would be most likely to fly in court with the brandishing. But because it's a road rage incident, it's a felony anyway, because it goes up one more degree. The only time that you're justified in drawing a gun on somebody is going to be found under Utah Title 76-2-402, Defense of a Person. In order for Mr. Samhammer to be justified in pointing a gun at somebody or in the direction of them, he would need to articulate that he has an imminent fear of being seriously injured or killed by this coworker. Clearly, that is not the case that happened. Or another option would be if you are preventing the commission of any forcible felony. So we know that none of these occurred, therefore he's not justified. What would some better options be in this situation? How about honking the horn if somebody's cutting you off? People don't always do things intentionally. Honking the horn, maybe, waving at somebody, maybe stopping the vehicle and letting this person drive by. You don't know what the mental state or what the situation is of this person that's cutting you off. It could be deliberately, but in this case, it probably wasn't. Maybe they were in a blind spot or something like that. And oftentimes we just react too quickly. Some other tips I can give you, and I've been involved in road rages before, and just take a deep breath. When something happens, take a few deep breaths, slow in, let the breath out. And if you're thinking about pulling out a gun, just pause that thought. I mean, if it's not obviously clear that you need to draw a gun in a life-threatening manner, if it's not obviously apparent to you, it's probably not a good reason to draw it. And so just pausing for a minute can often avoid some legal problems. You can't ask the bullet to come back once you pull the trigger and the bullet leaves the barrel, okay? You can't undo the act and take it back when you lose your temper or you make a bad decision and you draw a gun and point it at somebody. You can't take those things back. If you're found to have making a bad decision, then you have to face the legal consequences, which is what Mr. Samhammer is going to unfortunately have to go through. So what caused all this? I would say is this a mental health issue? Is it an issue that somebody just has a short fuse and can't control their temper very well? Is it a training issue? It's probably a combination of both. That's why I tell people that own guns, regardless of whether they want to get a concealed firearm permit or not, is, take a concealed carry class. It's like $50. At least if you've got a good instructor, they're going to walk you through what the legal uses of a firearm is. In this case, I think that the more probable main contributor, the primary contributor, is this guy just had a short fuse and he doesn't have very good critical thinking skills, and he probably needs to go through some anger management counseling. But I'm sure and no doubt he regrets what he did. So let's just talk about the consequences if this man's convicted of this charge. Number one, if he's convicted, a third-degree felony carries a penalty of 0 to 5 years in the state prison, along with fines as well that can probably go up to $5,000 in fines, maybe even more with a road rage enhancement. He's going to likely be ordered by the judge as part of the sentencing to go through a mental health evaluation and to cooperate with the therapist and go through some critical thinking errors training and anger management therapy. And he's going to have to go to as many sessions as that therapist deems to be necessary to give him treatment on that. And then based on what the therapist says, there could be a hearing on his competency with a firearm. If it was something that was very egregious or was a significant, like a mental health concern, he could potentially have a hearing on his competency to own a firearm. But even if he doesn't have a competency hearing on a firearm, if he's convicted, now he is going to be what we call a restricted person from owning or possessing firearms, both under federal and state law. And he's going to have to, as part of his sentence, the judge is going to order him to surrender those firearms to somebody because he won't be able to lawfully possess or own them now because he's a convicted felon of a violent felony charge. If he has a concealed firearm permit, that's going to be revoked. So he probably lost these gun privileges if he's convicted for life for making a crappy decision that he made. Driver's license suspensions and revocations could be part of a sentence in road rage. He drives a truck for a living. This means he's going to lose his job. He can't drive that truck anymore with a revoked driver's license. And if he's a state employee or a government employee, he's going to get terminated anyway for having a violent felony charge on his record. And he's going to have difficulty finding a job anywhere with that kind of charge. Let's talk about legal fees. He's going to need to hire an attorney to represent him. Good attorneys are $500 an hour or more, and he's probably going to need to pay a $10,000 retainer fee, and that is just to retain the lawyer, for the lawyer to write a letter to the prosecutor and say, I am representing this person. But, 100 hours is not unreasonable for a case like this. He probably could pay up to $50,000 in legal fees by the time this thing's over with if it goes to a trial. If it's settled in a pretrial, he's not going to have to pay that much, but sounds like it's a good brandishing case to me, and he's going to need a lawyer. They're not likely going to deal on this. If he's lucky, the judge, if it's a nice judge, he will allow Mr. Samhammer to use the costs to go through the therapy and apply that towards the fine. I've seen some judges do that. I used to be a court bailiff, and I would listen to hearings in the court and these sentences that these judges hand out. Another big trend with what judges are doing is they are sentencing people not only to take the mental health counseling or the anger management or critical thinking errors counseling, but if it's a case where their gun rights aren't involved, let's say that they just had an accidental discharge and shot the bullet into a wall or something like that, I'm seeing judges really starting to mandate that gun owners, if they have rights still, to take gun training, to take pistol courses, to take gun safety lessons and things like that. I get those calls on Google all the time. And I'm also seeing a trend with police starting to charge individuals when they make bad decisions with guns. In the past, years ago, the police a lot of times would just, they would have this attitude, well, we don't want to add salt to the wound if this person injured somebody with a gun, but now they're filing charges. You're getting manslaughter charges and brandishing charges and aggravated assault and all those things. So you just have to have a level head with a gun. You got to get some training to know when the use of the firearm is lawful. And the last thing, do you have to talk to the police when you're involved in a situation like this? If you get this proverbial knock at the door, do you have to give an interview? The answer is no. However, you do have to identify yourself. If the police come knocking on your door and they say, give me your driver's license, I need to see your ID, I believe that you were involved in a road rage crime, yeah, you have to give them your name, your address, and your date of birth. There wouldn't be anything wrong if I was in this situation. I would just respectfully ask the officer if I could wait until my attorney could be present during any questioning. And I've talked to a lot of attorneys in the courthouse, and I've asked them, what is the biggest mistake your clients make when you have to represent them in court? Every single lawyer that I've asked that question they say, well, I wish they would have shut their mouth and waited until I could be present during the questioning. So that is your right under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution. You have a right to have a lawyer present with you during any questioning, and the lawyer's probably not going to allow you to give an interview. They may just answer questions for you. Or if they feel like a question is going beyond what the police need to do, if it crosses the line, the attorney can always object and instruct their client not to answer. But if you find this video helpful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get 500 followers so I can get monetized, so I can have more time to do these videos. And I do these videos as a training tool for people so they can hear about live experience that happen where people have legal consequences for the improper use of their firearms. And we do this so people can learn from this and they become more responsible gun owners. Thanks for watching.